November 18th, 1872, 4:47 in the afternoon. Thomas Keefer stands at the edge of the excavation on Mosgrove Street in Ottawa's lower town, watching steam rise from the mouths of 83 laborers working below. The temperature has dropped to minus 28 Celsius. In his coat pocket, wrapped in oilcloth, sits $250,000 in cash and banknotes. 3 months' wages for the men covering the bywash. By midnight, that money will be buried under 11 feet of frozen earth. It will stay there for 94 years. The bywash was never meant to be a problem. When Colonel John By completed the Rideau Canal in 1832, this drainage creek seemed like elegant engineering. Water flowed from the canal basin down Mosgrove Street, through a culvert under Rideau Street, emerged again near George Street, and emptied into the Rideau River. Controlled by a sluice gate, it managed water levels while giving Lower Town residents a place to wash clothes and catch fish. 40 years later, Ottawa is no longer a muddy lumber town. It's Canada's capital. The creek running through its downtown streets no longer fits. In 1872, yes, the Federal Department of Public Works authorizes the project, cover the bywash completely, build a proper underground culvert system, transform Mosgrove Street from an open sewer into respectable urban infrastructure. Thomas Keefer, 46 years old, civil engineer, veteran of a dozen canal projects across Ontario, takes charge. He's built locks on the Welland Canal and aqueducts near Kingston. This should be straightforward. Excavate the existing creek bed deeper, install brick culverts, backfill with earth, pave the surface. 4 months of work. Complete it before winter makes the ground impossible. But Ottawa's fall arrives cold and stays cold. By early November, the ground freezes solid at night, thaws partially during the day, refreezes harder each sunset. The excavation becomes a race. Keefer's crew works in 2 12-hour shifts. Day shift breaks frost with pickaxes. Night shift digs by lantern light, racing the temperature. The culverts go in piece by piece. Red brick from kilns in Hull, laid with mortar mixed in heated sheds to keep it from freezing. Each section must cure before they backfill. Each delay costs money. Each week stretches the budget tighter. Keefer pays his men in cash. This is standard practice in 1872. No banks service common laborers. No checks exist for men who cannot read. Every Friday, the paymaster arrives with leather satchels, coins, and bills. The men line up. They take their wages. They go home. But this isn't Friday money. This is November 18th, and winter has arrived 3 weeks early. Yet a storm system from Hudson Bay drops the temperature 18 degrees in 6 hours. The forecast from the Meteorological Service predicts the cold will hold for a month. Keefer makes a decision. Finish now. Pour the final section of backfill, seal the culvert, send the men home before the real cold comes, pay them their accumulated wages, close the project, file the reports before Christmas. He sends word to the Department of Public Works. They authorize the funds, $250,000. 3 months of wages for 83 men. It's the equivalent of 47 years of salary for a skilled tradesman. Adjusted for purchasing power, roughly $8 million in modern currency. The money arrives Tuesday morning. Keefer stores it in the construction office, a wooden shed at street level above the excavation. He plans to distribute it Thursday after the final culvert section is complete. 2 days. Simple. Under this video, you'll see a subscribe button, a small action with a big meaning. By pressing it, you're not only supporting the creation of more content like this, yes, but you're also becoming part of the very exchange we've been talking about, giving and receiving in harmony. It's not about the size of the action, it's about the meaning. A simple subscription tells me these words reached you. It tells me that the effort, the late nights, and the discipline to bring this message forward mattered to someone on the other side of the screen. If you want to see how this fortune was buried and what happened when they finally found it, please hit that like button. It helps us share more forgotten stories. Subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Thomas Keefer. On Wednesday, November 20th, the temperature at sunrise minus 32 Celsius. Keefer arrives at the site at dawn. The excavation is a canyon of ice. The exposed culvert sections are frozen solid. The mortar between bricks has expanded, cracking the joints. Frost heave has shifted the foundation. 2 weeks of work destroyed in one night. He makes another decision: emergency repairs, heat the damaged sections with coal fires, relay the cracked bricks, work through the night if necessary. The men agree: overtime pay and double wages for night work. They need the money before winter idleness sets in. By afternoon, they have 7 coal fires burning in iron barrels along the excavation floor. The heat rises. The ice melts. Water runs down the sloped culvert toward the river outlet. This creates new problems. The water refreezes at the outlet, forming an ice dam. The meltwater backs up, flooding the excavation floor. The fires sit in 3 inches of water, hissing, smoking, threatening to extinguish. Keefer orders the sluice gate opened wider, release more water from the canal basin, flush the excavation clean. But the sluice mechanism is frozen. The gate opens 2 inches and stops. Not enough to clear the standing water. Too much to close again without tools they don't have on site. The water level rises 4 inches, 6 inches. The coal fires extinguish one by one. The men retreat to higher ground, climbing ladders to street level. The excavation fills like a trough. By 4:30 p.m., the water is 18 inches deep and rising. Keefer watches from Mosgrove Street. He needs to make a choice: abandon the excavation, let it flood completely, pump it out in the spring, or seal the sluice gate manually, stop the water flow, save the culvert sections. The first option ends the project for the season. The second option requires men to wade into freezing water in 30-degree cold. He doesn't get to choose. At 4:47 p.m., the ice dam at the river outlet breaks catastrophically. The backed-up water surges forward through the culvert, and the pressure lifts 2 brick sections clean off their foundation. The surge carries them 50 feet downstream before they shatter against a support pillar. The culvert collapses. The excavation floor drops 4 feet. The construction office tilts sideways, supported by nothing but frozen earth and prayer. Keefer runs. The office is sliding toward the excavation edge. Inside, project documents, survey maps, payroll records, and $250,000 in a locked iron chest. He reaches the door as the floor tilts 30 degrees. The chest has slid against the far wall. He drags it toward the door. The building shifts again. A support beam cracks. He gets the chest to the threshold and shoves it outside. It lands in snow, rolls 10 feet, stops at the excavation edge, and goes over. The chest falls 11 feet, hits the excavation floor, bounces once, and sinks into 18 inches of water that is freezing solid as darkness falls. By the time Keefer and 3 men climb down with ropes and lanterns, the water has frozen around the chest. The surface ice is 2 inches thick. They try to chip it out. The ice is already too hard. They mark the location with stakes and retreat. That night, the temperature drops to -37 Celsius. The coldest November night in Ottawa's recorded history. The water in the excavation freezes solid. 6 inches of ice, then 12, then 18. The following day, a second storm buries the site in 4 feet of snow. Keefer petitions the Department of Public Works for emergency funds. They deny the request. The original budget has been exhausted. The project is over budget and behind schedule. They will revisit funding in April. He writes to Ottawa's mayor explaining the situation. The mayor suggests private investors. There are none. No one will fund a winter excavation project to recover money buried under ice and snow in a half-collapsed culvert. The men go home. No wages for November, no money for December, no explanation that satisfies hungry families. Some leave Ottawa entirely, heading to lumber camps where at least there's winter work, as others stay waiting, hoping for spring. Spring arrives late in 1873. The snow doesn't melt until mid-May. When it does, the excavation is not an excavation anymore. The ground has refrozen and thawed in cycles, causing massive frost heave. The culvert sections have shifted. The entire site is unstable. The city inspector condemns it as unsafe. The Department of Public Works makes a new decision. Fill it completely. Bury the failed construction. Start over in a different location. They bring in earth. Wagon after wagon, they dump it into the excavation. They compact it with steamrollers. By June, the site is level ground. By July, it's paved. The chest with $250,000 sits 11 feet below Mosgrove Street, under 8 feet of compacted earth beneath brick pavers, forgotten. Thomas Keefer files his final report in August 1873. He lists the lost wages as unrecoverable due to site collapse and subsequent abandonment. The Department of Public Works writes it off. The men who worked those 3 months in freezing conditions receive nothing. Some file complaints. None succeed. The case is closed. Ottawa grows. Mosgrove Street becomes a commercial district. Buildings rise on both sides. The underground creek, now fully culverted in a different location, flows beneath the city. The old bywash excavation site becomes a foundation for a 3-story dry goods warehouse, then a department store. Then in 1932, the site is redeveloped for the 3rd time. Still, no one digs deep enough to find the chest. In 1966, the Rideau Center project begins. Modern excavation equipment, deep foundation work, structural engineers planning 5 stories of retail space. On March 3, 1966, a backhoe operator named Donald Murphy hits something metallic at 12 feet below grade. He stops. The foreman climbs down. They brush away earth from a rusted iron chest 3 feet long, 18 inches wide, locked with a mechanism that is fused solid from 94 years of corrosion. They open it with an acetylene torch. Inside, rotted leather satchels, decomposed paper, coins fused together in green blocks of oxidized copper, bank notes reduced to pulp, a few gold sovereigns still intact. The total recoverable value, $347 in gold coins. The rest is trash. The construction foreman reports the find to the city. A historian identifies it as the lost payroll from the 1872 Bywash project using Thomas Keefer's archived reports. The story makes the Ottawa Citizen on March 5, 1966, 1 column inch on page 7. The construction crew finds 19th century payroll. The gold coins go to the Bank of Canada. The chest goes to the Bytown Museum. The story fades. Most people who read it assume $250,000 in 1872 was equivalent to maybe $2,500 in 1966. They don't understand purchasing power. They don't realize what that money meant to 83 men and their families through the winter of 1872 to 1873. Thomas Keefer died in 1915. He built railways across Canada, designed water systems for Hamilton and Ottawa, served as president of the Canadian Society of Civil Engineers. His obituary doesn't mention the Bywash project. It's a footnote, a failed contract and a successful career. But the men who worked that November in 1872 remembered. Some of them lived long enough to see automobiles, electric lights, the first airplanes. They told their children about the winter they worked for free because the engineer dropped the money in a hole. Their grandchildren heard the story. Their great-grandchildren forgot it. This is what happens to money when it goes underground in Ottawa. The frost doesn't care about purchasing power. The ice doesn't respect fiscal planning. The ground takes what it wants and gives back nothing but rust. $250,000 in 1872. 11 feet below Mosgrove Street. Buried by cold, recovered too late to matter. The men who earned it never saw it. The city that lost it barely remembered. The chest that held it sits in a museum basement with a placard that gets the date wrong. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve these histories. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from.